Well, we got a hold of this wonderful wheat, which we've been playing with. I started by using it in the focaccia. I've never played with whole wheat that did have the elasticity and rise at this step. It almost behaves like a white flour in that it gets a wonderful toothsome quality. It doesn't have that kind of hippie texture that Paul and I complain about, of the really graininess with the whole wheat.
To focus on is getting 2,000 or 3,000 acres of wheat in production for us. And that's I think that would simplify everybody's.
Well, this stuff is just beginning to tiller. You really just have, you know, 1 or 2 seeds in a place like this, and 1 or 2 seeds will produce a whole bunch of tillers. In other words, a whole bunch of new shoots will come up from what started out right here as 1 seed. Yeah. And it will get very bulky and have multiple heads up higher. So probably about June this will be all ready to harvest. Now harvest will be a challenge here because we have these small test plots. There'll be a lot of cleaning the harvester between plots to get some pure samples. But we're really interested just to see what this stuff yields. That's the interesting part about it. If we can get something that's an economic yield in a variety, that is something that makes an interesting product. Tastes like wheat.
Grains that you showed me were relatively skinny and thin grains. Whole meal, whole wheat grains are undoubtedly the best because they contain elements of the germ and they contain elements of a tissue called the alurone layer, which is what I've spent my life working on. And the alurone layer contains lots of vitamins, lots of minerals, and lots of things like amino acids that we need in our diets.
We basically preserve the total composition of that grain, and within that process it complements itself, preserves itself, and gives you the flavor and the natural nutrition that you should be getting. And I think we've been successful in doing that.
È stato un piacere. Particolarmente loro stanno facendo, a parte hanno un ristorante a Auckland. The flours is only a little bit sifted, but not separate from the white part of the flour to the bran and then remix it together. Yeah. We don't make this and another very important thing for us, and that we don't add in the flour additives, preservatives, gluten, folic acid, for example, nothing.
My commitment to whole grains is selfish to some extent because I'm forcing myself to learn baking with whole grains versus white flour is a very different, it's not different on a particular cookie. There's things that are very much the same, but yeasted, long fermented breads, the whole structure I'm used to, the control that I'm used to is no longer here for me. So putting myself in the commitment of saying no white flour in my bakery is partially motivated to force me to become a master at whole grain.
You look out at this field and what you see is genetic variation. Early ones, late ones, ones that fell down, ones that are tall, ones that are short, ones that are disease resistant, others that are killed by the disease. All of that is genetic, true genetic variation. Modern commercial wheat, there's no variation in the field basically. The consequence is you have all the same stuff, and with climate change or diseases or whatever coming in, you have less buffering.
Really cool kind of thing they're doing up in Healdsburg, growing these really kind of special wheats. We've got Bolero, we have Espresso, we have a Durham, and a couple others. We've really been into the durum. It's got really good flavor and almost produces a texture of a dried pasta while still being fresh. That's something we struggled with a lot with some of these grains, is making them so they had that toothiness and had that flavor that a good dried pasta will have.
We thought we were kind of eccentric for doing this because, you know, who pulls up grapes to plant wheat? Certainly not in this neighborhood. But once we did that, we found that a whole series of problems sort of arose. And the most obvious one was, how do you harvest the wheat? You know, and suddenly something that was gone, that was sort of extinct in this area, has sprung back to life, and there's this small economy going on where people are not only making a living, now it's more commercial for everybody. Things get easier because we trade information, but it's also a community, and it's you know, a network of relationships that we really think are important. And so this farm is a lot about that.
So those are a few of the people who we've met over the last few years and who we've learned from, and we've learned an awful lot. And we think we have a long ways to go also in trying to pull things together to make a coherent local grain economy and a coherent business. We think we've opened a window into a pretty neat, a wonderful new world.